In this video, I will be discussing the process of taking a model that you've made in Maya and how to put it into Mudbox and what to do when getting your model prepared. So you see right now I have a variety of different assets that I've just really quickly made. And we're going to look at this one here specifically. Now, a really quick way of sending something into Mudbox is you could export out the particularly selected object. You can go to File, Export, save it out as FBX, and it will open up in Mudbox. However, because Mudbox is also Autodesk software, you can see that, like with a lot of Autodesk software, it's all kind of intertwined, and you can pretty much have a lot of connectivity with various different Autodesk software. So, for instance, it has a send to Mudbox option right now, so I can send this as a new scene, update it, so you can add it to that particular scene, and vice versa. Updating it basically means that if you're sculpting something in Mudbox, which uses the same base mesh, I can make alterations in there and send it back into Mudbox, and it would update Mudbox, and vice versa. I can update the Maya scene with the newer alterations made in Mudbox. I can add this as a completely new object in there, or I can just start anew in a new particular scene, which is what I'll do right now. So I can send to new scene, and I already had Mudbox up right now, so I can press don't save, for instance, and you can see that we now have our model in Mudbox, but not just yet. Now, before sending something from Maya into Mudbox, you need to take into consideration a few different factors. So right now you can see in Mudbox that I have a number of issues. So for instance, you can see here that a high valence of vertexes, UV faces crossing the boundaries, and incomplete UV sets. Now you might look at this and say, okay, that's not really a big of a deal. Actually, it is, and I'll show you why right now. So if I press keep all, so let's see, yeah, okay, I might have my model right now, but if I start creating some subdivision layers and start subdividing it, for instance, so if I subdivide, click, subdivide again, I'll do about 4 subdivision layers just to kind of get my point across at the moment. So you see now that I have my four subdivision levels and sculpting layers. So let me go in and try to sculpt it. So if I try to increase the brush mouse, so you can see I'm pressing really hard on my graphics tablet right now, trying to sculpt into this particular object, and I'm not in the wrong layer. You can see that this is a completely right layer. Again, nothing showing up. And go to my mouse really quick. Again, nothing showing up. The only thing I can do with this is grab it. So for instance, even if I grab it, you might see that there's some black spots that are appearing. Now, why is this happening? Well, it's basically that this particular model has a variety of different errors. You have to make sure that you utilize clean modeling techniques, because these will ensure that your model has no errors whatsoever for it to work efficiently within Mudbox. This particular model right now has a variety of different issues. Still got its history. It has vertices. It has like one vertices sharing 16 edges. Has incomplete UV sets. All of these just build up and causes this particular error. So you need to make sure that you're utilizing efficient modeling techniques and tools in order to successfully be able to sculpt this particular object. So what we'll do is we'll use the axe as an example. So I've already UV unwrapped this particular axe. It took me a bit of time, but yeah, it's all there complete. So that should be it, right? Actually, no. There's still a few things you need to take into consideration. One thing being the history. Now, the history is basically Maya remembering every single process that you've taken. So if you go to the channel box, which is just right here, we have our translation, rotate, etc. Now, under here, you'll see inputs. Now, Maya remembers every single thing that you've done to this particular object. So if I ever extruded or moved or deleted any sort of faces, edges, vertices, Maya will remember every single one of these. I can kind of click into these and see every single changes that I've made to this particular model. And that's not really good, again, because this kind of adds to the memory cache for this object, and even in Maya as well. And you want to get rid of all that particular information, because again, it's just taking up memory and it's just wasting space. And it's quite simple to do. Just click on your object, go to Edit, Delete by Type, and History. So see now that this model is completely clean. I might just go in and name it as well, because again, that is good practice. Sweet. So now it's named. Its history deleted, and now I can go and send this to Mudbox. Yeah, this is the one that is showing up at the moment right now. The high vertex. I'll quickly read it out for you guys. at least one vertex has more than 16 adjacent angles. And like I said here, you can use this mesh, but if you're using it for a map extractor with the mesh smoothing turned on, there will be artifacts in the resulting maps. Now, what does that exactly mean? Well, it basically means that you can have something which has, you can have a vertex that is sharing various different edges. However, it can cause issues when you're going to be making your, when you're going to be extracting all that information into texture maps, and you'll see that it actually causes some issues when it's smooth as well. When it comes to Mudbox or ZBrush, it's more appropriate to work in quads. That is meshes with sorry, that is polygon faces with only 4 sides. So, but I'll get into that in a second. I'm just going to bring in this particular object and I'll show you right now. So we have our axe, for instance. So if I start creating some, so I'll start creating some digital sculpting, sculpting layers. I'll just put 4 in. So I can see I can still use the grab tool, but if you notice when I use the grab tool, there's none of that weird sort of black splodgy. In fact, even the lighting is a lot more fixed. Again, because this model is completely clean. Has no errors or no information whatsoever. It's completely clean, and I can even sculpt into it as well. So you can see I can sculpt in there that nice sort of finer details. And you might see these red dots that appear right now. Again, that's just making you aware that there is a vertex that is sharing like 16 adjacent angles. But as you can see, it's not going to cause me any sort of real issues. But I'm going to show the difference just in a second. But yeah, this model is completely clean, and that means I can now digitally sculpt it. One thing you will need to take into consideration as well is the fact that the size. So Mudbox is already set to real world sizes. So I believe this particular square does equal 25 centimeters. So do make sure that your grid is set up correctly in Maya, because if you have a very small asset in Mudbox, even though you can subdivide it like up to like a million polygons, with the model being so small, sometimes that fine detail isn't really going to stand out. So please make sure that you are working in real world sizes, or maybe you might want to exaggerate a size slightly, just for the sake of Mudbox, so that way you can get the super finer details for your particular model. Now so right now we can see that I have this cylinder, and here we can see that this has a vertex in the middle which is sharing about 16 to 20 different edges all around, and here I've deleted those. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn this particular face into quads, so that's basically creating polygon faces with 4 sides. Now how do you do that? It's quite simple really. All you have to do is go to this particular tool here, hover over it, it's the modeling toolkit, and you want to scroll down to the multi-cut tool. And what you can see right now is, as you hover over each of the vertex, you can see this little red square that appears on top of the vertices. What I can do is I can click on them and click on another vertice or vertex, and it creates a line. Basically, it's creating an edge loop. So if I press enter, that creates a edge which is connected by these 2 vertices. And you can see right now that it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is not really great right now, so I'm going to do that again. This one and this one, that's correct. Okay, so now I have a polygon face with 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. So I'm going to go in and do the same for the rest. So I just click on a vertex, click on the opposite of vertex and press enter. Again, click on the vertex, click on another vertex, enter, vertex, vertex, enter, and so on. In case you do accidentally click on somewhere that you don't want to be, you can just hover over it and then just drag it across the other vertex and then press enter again. Okay, so again, it is more preferable to use quads in Mudbox or ZBrush, because again, it does subdivide your model much more smoothly, and we're going to see that in a second right now. So again, this side now is all in quads. This one has 1 vertex with about 16 adjacent edges that are sharing it. So if I send this to Mudbox right now, we'll send it as a new scene. Don't save. We'll keep this for now. Hopefully it shouldn't cause us too much issues, although I may need to, actually, you know what, I'll quickly, just in case, I want to make this clean. So we'll just go to edit, delete by type history, just to be sure that it's not the errors that are going to cause us to mess up. So update the current scene. Okay, so if I just turn on the wireframe really for an instance, you can see here that's the side with the one vertice. This is the side with quads. So I'm going to start subdividing it. So instantly you can kind of see that there are some issues that are occurring right now with this particular model. So as I subdivide it, you can kind of see that this particular face is much more smooth in comparison to the backside here. Again, because if I go to the wireframe for instance right now, you can see it's having a lot of issues trying to get some edge loops and extra vertices, edges, etc. to actually subdivide it more appropriately. So you're going to have this sort of weird effect where it's going to look more crinkled, whereas this side here it looks a lot more smooth. Again, this isn't a great example. I probably should have gone in and creased the edges a little bit to kind of enhance that particular feel. But you can kind of get an idea as to how it would affect your particular modeling. And again, if I go back to this axe for instance, if I send this to Mudbox really quick, let's turn the wireframe. So you can see that these cylinders are in quads, and this part here is in particular has one vertex sharing sharing 16 edges. If I start subdividing, hopefully my computer won't crash. Okay. So compare the topology of this particular cylindrical face right now. You can see that the subdivisions are quite smooth and it has kept its shape. Whereas if you look at the top of this axe here, you can see again we're getting sort of weird creases again because it can't really subdivide that particular edge well enough. So that's why it's always more preferable to work in quads. And that's why you will have to kind of go in and make sure that every polygon face has 4 sides. You don't want anything with more than 4 sides, because again that will cause issues in Mudbox. So once you finish watching this video, I would suggest watching my videos on clean modeling, because they do kind of go over these particular industry techniques that would be helpful in Mudbox, and also go from this and go on to the concepts of creasing edges and even beveling edges, because that will be very important